our goal in being mindful is to slow our brains down so that, again, we're focused on the moment. I love that cartoon about mindful or mindful, right? And it really thinks about the goal of the breath is not to make us feel better. And I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. They're like, breathe to calm down. Well, yeah. Now, I don't think ever in the history of the world, when we tell somebody to calm down and breathe, has it ever really worked very well. So what we want to think about is breathing really is one of the things that we could do to interrupt the flow of our thoughts and feelings. And eventually we calm down, because a lot of times our anxiety and stress center, it lights up very quickly, but it takes time to dissipate. And so if we expect the breathing to make it better, then it actually makes it worse, because that's not going to be achieve your goal of calming down. But if you were trying to interrupt and redirect, that's what we want to do with the breathing. So this is what I call the mindful breath, and I'll have you guys do this with me. So you basically just inhale, and then I like to think about exhaling and bringing my shoulders down. And then I take one more and I kind of do that again. And I also think about clearing my mind. And sometimes I'll use a color. And your goal is to do that breath, or kind of like a big sigh, every time you change activities. Make it part of the routine. So every time you go from room to room, every time you get in and out of your car, right? We kind of do this breathing thing. And then one of the things that I like to do with that as well is kind of think about, I don't know if any of you watched Marie Kondo, and she does the little organization thing. And when people have too much stuff, she's like, you need to get rid of it, right? And she's like, oh, thank you. You've served me well. Well, I do that with my day. So if I've had something happen, I breathe, and I might make a statement about it. I might say, well, oh, that was terrible, or that didn't feel very good. Or I might just be like, all right, I got that done. And I breathe, and then I go, okay, I am ready for my next thing. And that takes us out of that what's next mentality. And it helps you practice being focused. And if you just start to do it as part of your routine, other people will notice it too. I think not like really notice it, but they will kind of notice it. Like when parents get in the car and the kids are all coming in, if you're quiet for a moment as they come in, and then kind of turn your attention to them. But they will take your cues from you. They don't have to do it. But if you're doing it, eventually they might catch on and do it too. Or at least they'll be quiet for a moment, which is still a good way of them being mindful. And so let me put all this up. So there's a lot of other things we like to do to kind of bring in the breathing and make it more effective. So the color breathing is like breathing in, thinking about a color, and thinking about breathing in that color and letting it flow through your body. This is my 5-finger breathing. So you just breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And when you're doing that, what are you thinking about? Ideally, you're thinking about, like, you have to do some work. So you have a sensory thing, and you're kind of having to concentrate a little bit. And that's great to interrupt that tornado of thoughts and feelings that sometimes consumes our mind, right? So if we can do things outside of us to add into the breath, then it makes the breath more effective. Rainbow breathing, the kids love this. And you just put your arms out and you just go up and down, right? Infinity or square breathing, that's the infinity or the lazy 8, where you kind of just trace it, right? I love to use other sensory things, like sometimes a rock. So these like stones, so you can have a little stone. I love a little lavender. So you just kind of spray a little lavender and kind of breathe. I also like these, I don't know if you guys know about like calm strips, but they're these little, I don't know if you can see them very well, but they're like, they have texture on them, right? And you can also just breathe back and forth with that. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Or you can just rub on them. I've got one on my phone. I've got one in my car. I've got one on my steering wheel. But the cool thing is it incorporates that rhythm, right? And you think about like when we have babies and we hold them, we're always kind of doing that rocking because we want that rhythm. And so doing rhythmic movement helps us calm down, right? Having our senses involved kind of helps us to regulate the nervous system. And you can do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's using your senses. And I just found out about this. You know what? You could do that with shapes. You'd be like, name 5 circles, name, 5 things that have circles, name 5 things that are squares. But again, what it does is that's help interrupting that flow and helps you ground with where you're at.